Today on TOKKANTE we're talking about the Longines Legend Diver no date. So a couple of months ago I bought a no date, sent it out to service, and now it's been back for a couple of weeks. So let's talk about it. First, let's look at some historical perspective, and then I'll tell you about the find, the Longines service experience, and then my impressions about the watch. And at the end of it all, is the no date worth it? Hi everyone and welcome, I'm Ben. So first, let's do a little bit of a historical perspective about the Longines Legend Diver and see where it fits in Longines history and the history of dive watches and in their catalog today. If we look at the 1950s and 60s, that was considered to be the golden era of dive watches. In 1953, we had the first official dive watch with the Blancpain 50 Fathom, quickly followed by the Rolex Submariner in 1953, and then 1957 we had the Omega Seamaster 300, and then all the way to 1967 with the Doxa 300. So those are some of the big names in early dive watch history. But what we tend to forget is that actually Longines introduced itself at the end of the 50s into the dive watch market. Up until that point, Longines was actually very famous for making chronographs, and it was one of the world's top maker of chronographs, even rivaling Patek Philippe at the time. But then in 1958, Longines came out with the Skin Diver reference 6921, which was a compressor case made by Irving Picares and water resistant to 150 meters. So that model wasn't particularly popular, and then quickly actually they came up with another model, and some said that it was developed in parallel. They came up with the super compressor reference 7042, and that is the original Legend Diver. So that was also using the super compressor case from Irving Picares. And what that was, of course now we know super compressor as kind of those dual crown case shape, but it was not about the shape of the case, it was about the technology. Back then, they didn't have screw down crowns or screwed case back. It was about special gasket, and then it was pull-push crown and then a snap-on case back. But basically with the pressure, the deeper you went underwater and the more water resistant the case became up until a certain point. And that was the super compressor technology at the time. And so this one was water resistant between 100 and 120 meters. You'll find different sources online and different references. So it's interesting that it seemed to have been less water resistant than the Skin Diver. But this one, the reference 7042, was a lot more popular. And basically at that time, Longines was part of the holy trinity of super compressor cases, with the other two being Jaeger-LeCoultre and then Universal Genève. There are plenty of other brands that actually all use the same case from Irving Picares, but it's true that Longines and JLC are probably the most famous one even today that we remember as making super compressor cases. So now we fast forward to 2007, and Longines reintroduced the Longines Legend Diver in 2007. And they reintroduced it like very true to the original, and it was a no date. And between 2007-2009, it was only the no date version, but then apparently it wasn't selling too well because it was not much of a daily driver. There was no date on it. So 2009, they came up with a date version. And the date version sold a lot better. So from 2009 onward, the sales increased very sharply for the date version, and the no date was basically discontinued in 2011. So officially it was available between 2007 and 2011, but really it was only sold between 2007-2009, and after that the sales kind of dwindled very quickly. So this is why the no date version is actually quite difficult to find. Now there have been plenty of date versions available, different colors, different materials. Up until 2021, this year, they also have a no-date version available, but it's the bronze version with a green dial, which I liked and I've talked about it, but it's not true to the original. The original was never available in bronze. So now we have to remember that in 2007, that was before the whole trend about vintage reissues. That was before the Black Bay, that was before all the other ones. Now, of course, we have hundreds of different models from all sorts of brands doing vintage reissues, but Longines was pretty much the first one to do it. And still now, after all these other models, we can see that the Longines Legend Diver is one of the best vintage reissue that was kept really true to the original. Now, when I think of Longines, especially the heritage models, I think about two models, the Legend Diver and then the Avigation Big Eye. That's another one that was very well made. So the Longines Legend Diver, it's still one of, if not the most popular model for Longines nowadays. So now let's talk about the find. So one day, Uptick from Uptick Watch Reviews. Many of you who watch me know his channel very well. If not, go take a look. So Uptick sent me a message on WhatsApp with this photo of the watch from a display watch window in Yau Ma Tei. It's one of those areas in Hong Kong where there are quite a few pre-owned watch stores, and we always hang out around there to look for, the rare, undervalued find. And he sent me this and he said, hey, you better go grab this one. I thought, well, that's a very good price. It was 15,980 Hong Kong dollars. And in US dollars, that's as of today, October 10, 2021, it's 2,052 US dollars. And so if you know the current market value of the no date, you know that this is actually quite a good price. And then you will think, well, then if it's such a good price, why didn't he get it for himself? Well, that's because he already has one. Uptick already has all the good watches. So since he had one, he told me, yeah, you should go and grab this one. So I thought about it for a little while, but I didn't want to sit on it too long because it was a good price. It would go anyway. And then a few days later, I decided to go and get it. So this is a watch that I was always interested in, but I was not really actively looking for because I know that especially the no-date version is more expensive. And then once you start paying, twice the retail price for a Longines, I was thinking, well, I'm not sure I want to put that much money on a Longines, even though I like it. But at $2,000, that was a really good price. So I went to that store, and that's a really tiny little shop. And usually they have quite good prices on non-Rolex watch models. They sell mostly Rolex, and I think that's where they make most of their money. So if you don't buy Rolex, they're usually willing to offer better prices on things like Cartier or Longines or other brands or Porsche design, etc. So I went in and I looked at the watch, and so the only thing is that it had no box. It had all the papers and it had the straps. It even had the manual that the watch came with. It just didn't have the original box. And well, since this is not, some kind of special limited edition with, a special box like an Omega Ultraman Speedmaster, for example, I thought, well, it's just a Longines Legend Diver box. I might be able to find one later on eBay or somewhere, and even if I don't have it, I don't think that would add so much value to the watch. But the fact that it had the paper, I knew that it was from Taiwan, dated from 2008, so it was really an early version of the no date. And it had the stamp, it had the card, it had the manual, the straps, etc. Everything was fine, just it had no service history. So I decided to go for it. I tried to negotiate a little bit, but they wouldn't budge. They probably knew that it was already a good price, so I got it. So now let's talk about the service, because as I said, the watch was from 2008 and there was no service history with it. And even though the watch was in perfect condition, basically I couldn't even find a scratch on the watch case. So I think it hadn't been worn much, but the oils were probably dried, and definitely I wanted to give it a full service. Now the watch store gave me a 1-year warranty, and they said that they would provide me a full service included with the warranty, but I didn't trust them. I don't usually trust those little shops. They would probably open it and pretend that everything is fine. And anyway, I'm sure they wouldn't want to spend too much time, effort, or money giving me an actual, real, full service. So I said, that's fine, thanks. But I decided to go with the official, Longines Service Center service. So I had heard pretty bad feedback from Swatch Group in general and their service centers. I've read things online in forums and saying that people had quite bad experience and they're quite rude and it's not very good, or they had to go back several times. And so I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but Uptick had told me, and he even made a video saying that he had a good experience with it. So, I gave them a call, and I have to say they were very, very nice, both on the phone, calling them to find out if I needed an appointment, which I didn't, and then going there in person during lunchtime, and they were very, very nice. They were super nice. Then you bring the watch in, they take a look at it, and they give me an access code so that I can go online the next day and get a full quotation on what I had requested. So I requested a full service but no polish, and I made sure, I said I don't want any polish on the watch. She wrote it down, she highlighted it in yellow, and I said I want a quotation on 2 accessories, either brand new strap, the original Longines strap, or the bracelet, because I knew that I kind of wanted the watch on the Longines mesh bracelet, but I wasn't sure how much that would cost. And so the next day, I got the quotation, and the full service comes in at 2,020 Hong Kong dollars. So that's around 260 US dollars. and the mesh bracelet was 2,775 Hong Kong dollars, so that's about 356 US dollars. And I decided to go for both. So then you can approve the quotation online, they take a photo of your watch, they give you an estimate of when it's going to be ready, and I have to say everything went without a hitch. The watch was ready exactly on the day that it was supposed to be ready, and then I called them up and I asked if I had to make an appointment to pick it up. They say no, and I just went to pick it up and everything was fine. They resized the bracelet on the spot. Another thing, they had said that if I wanted to have the watch delivered to me or delivered to a Longines store that was convenient to maybe where I work or where I live, they could do that. And I didn't even have to pick it up where I dropped it off. That's very good service. But since I wanted to have the bracelet resized, they told me actually the best place to do that is at the service center because they had a watchmaker, on site. So I decided to go and pick it up. But that's very good service. If I had decided to pick it up at a different store, I could have done that. So they resized the bracelet. I have to say the mesh bracelet is quite long, so I had to remove all the links, I think all the 5 links. And then I was wearing my Omega Speedmaster FOIS on the Forstner bracelet at the time, which I had, resized, but I wasn't quite happy with it. And since I was there, I asked them, hey, would you mind taking a look at this? Because I would like the clasp to be right in the middle of my wrist. And if you could maybe resize it a little bit. Which they did, and even though it's not an Omega service center and it was not an original bracelet, it was a Forstner one, but they resized it, and they even gave me an Omega service watch box. So all in all, amazing experience at the Longines service center, and I have only good words to say about it. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that the watch now comes with a 2-year warranty, and the customer service person wanted to make sure that I would bring it in for a checkup at the end of, before the end of the 2-year warranty. So she was telling me, hey, you should put it in your calendar right now, make sure that you have a reminder so you don't forget to bring it in. And I thought that's a nice touch, because they could just let the 2-year warranty run out and hope to never hear back from me again. So now my impressions about the Legend Diver No Date. I'm not going to do a review. There are plenty of reviews on YouTube about the date or no date. You can go watch those. But just my impressions, maybe what I was expecting versus what it turned out to be in the end. So like I said, I always liked the Longines Legend Diver No Date, but I was not actively looking for it, and there are 3 reasons for that. Number 1 is that, it's more expensive. It can be quite expensive for a Longines. If you go on Chrono 24 as of today, there are 6 examples going from 3,150 US dollars, I think, to $3,900. So that was, quite a lot more that I wanted to pay for a No Date. Number 2 is that 52 lug to lug, dimensions that everyone seems to be complaining about, and I thought, it's gonna probably wear too big, even though I had never tried one on. And the third issues for me was that it was not available on a bracelet, and I've said it many times, I always like my watches on a bracelet, so that wasn't an option until recently. And now that they came up with the version on the mesh bracelet, that kind of changed everything for me. So in the end, what's the reality? Well, one is that yes, it's a big watch, it's still a big watch, it was a big watch back then and it's still a big watch now, but actually the 52 lug to lug, it's still wearable. It doesn't overhang on my wrist, and if you're gonna go for a Longines Legend Diver, that's the look, right? Second, I think it's a very clean and sleek look. The super compressor case with the inner rotating bezel is becoming very popular now. You can see a lot of micro brands actually coming up with new cases like this that are not real super compressor cases, but they are very that emulate the look, and they are very popular. So I kind of like that. Another point, the third point, is that I usually don't like fully polished cases. I don't like that, except if it's a a dress watch maybe. But in this case, I think yes, it gives it a more refined, more sophisticated look, and I would now call the Legend Diver kind of my dressy diver. So that's interesting. And then finally, the fourth point is the bracelet. Putting it on that 60s mesh bracelet, I think really completes the 60s vintage diver look. And so as an overall package, now I really love it. So adding up everything that I spent on it, was it actually worth it? The watch itself cost me then 2,020 US dollars, and then the service 260, the bracelet 356. So if you add it up, it's 2,666 US dollars for everything. Now, as I've mentioned before, if you go on Chrono 24, you find them 26 of them, between 3100 to 3900, let's say. And those, you have to remember, yes, they have box and paper, so they have the box that I don't have, but they have no service history and they come on a strap. They don't come on a bracelet. Now, Chrono24 tells me, when I uploaded my watch to my collection, that my watch is worth, as of today, $3,544 US dollars. Knowing that it's from 2008, and I uploaded that, I don't have the box for it, but it's still not taking in consideration that I actually did a full service and that I did the bracelet. So I know that Chrono24 prices have to be taken with a grain of salt, because those are sellers' prices and people would negotiate, and also you pay the seller's fee, so you can probably take down 10% or 15%, but I would also be able to sell it a bit higher because of the service and the bracelet. So I probably could sell this for $3,800, let's say. So I'm not sure, but the point is that overall I did not lose any money with this one, and I think basically I could wear it for a while, and even if I decide to pass it on, this was a very safe buy that I had nothing to worry about, and I could just buy it in full confidence and maybe let it go later. It doesn't really matter. So in conclusion, I think the Longines Legend Diver is a classic. The original reference 7042, can it be considered an icon or just a legend? In any case, I think it's a very well done vintage reissue. It's also appreciated even by seasoned collectors, and it has a place in any collections, even alongside much more expensive pieces like Patek Philippe, and it doesn't look cheap next to them. Also, as a super compressor case, whether you have this one or another one, but I think it's an important part of diving watch history. And if you're a dive watch collector and you have an appreciation of history, you should have a super compressor case in your collection. And this one would be a very good way to go. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to ask yourself, what makes you tick. Subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one.